UFOs are real, burgeoning, not going away. I am your intrepid host, L.A. Marzulli. It's happening. We had on May 8th, my friend Matt Brunet's birthday, by the way. He was up here and we celebrated it. Peggy made some great dessert, but I digress as usual. But May 8th was amazing because they rolled the stuff out and we pushed back. Tim Alberino, Martha Gonzalez, and yours truly pushed back. We did an hour and a half. I was only able to do an hour with Tim and Mondo, but it was great because look, this is very, very complex stuff. It really is. It's just not when the people just say, oh, it's just demons. Oh, you need to define what demons are. The technology that these entities have surpasses anything we have, which gives you an idea that whatever we're looking at goes far beyond the F-18s or any other, you know, armaments, whatever that we may have. They've been around for a lot longer than human beings, in my opinion. So we'll get into this first. A word from our very trusted sponsor. A bombshell study just revealed that GLP-1 drugs don't actually work the same for everyone. Your genes determine whether the injections work at all and whether you'll suffer the side effects. At nearly $1,000 a month, that's a brutal gamble millions of Americans are unknowingly taking. This is why I love GLP-1 Elevate. Instead of a pharmaceutical gamble, it uses clinically studied plant-based ingredients like metabolate to help my body naturally boost its own GLP-1 signals, the ones controlling hunger and fullness. No prescription, no needle, no genetic lottery. I get fewer cravings. I feel fuller faster and actually keep my results without the metabolic crash. Folks, I got to tell you, I've been on it now for a couple of months and I have noticed a difference. But you gotta do it every day. One in the morning, one in the afternoon before my evening meal, and I've noticed a difference. Folks, get 51% off at www.trimwithla.com. Every order includes a free VIP coaching for life, a 60-day money-back guarantee, and free express shipping with subscriptions. Head to www.trimwithla.com. I've noticed a difference, and Peggy's going to try it soon.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to Time Out with Kevin Gallagher. I'm, of course, your host, and it's a pleasure to have you here. We have a very important show for you, and a guest that I've had on many times over the last, say, 20 years, and I can't believe I've known him that long. It's like crazy, but we're going to have him on, and we're going to be talking about disclosure. I did have Stan Deo on a couple of weeks back talking about this. We touched on it, but then all the big announcements came out. Trump did this dump of documents and a lot of crazy stuff going on if you look at the social media. And before we get to our guest, which is L.A. Marzulli, I'm going to show you a clip that dates back, I guess, into the 80s. And I want to get L.A.'s reaction on this, which is Ronald Reagan, when he was then president, speaking at the UN and talking about this subject in a very interesting way. But let's go there right now and check this out.
Perhaps we need some outside universal threat. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. And yet, I ask you, is not an alien force already among us? What could be more alien to the universal aspirations of our peoples than war and the threat of war?
Very interesting clip, and it kind of puts things into an interesting focus. Right before we get to LA, I just want to remind you, you're watching Time Out with Kevin Gallagher. You're watching us on Comcast at Friday nights, 8:30 p.m., Monday mornings at 11 a.m. And if you're watching us on Charter, on that cable system here in Connecticut, you're watching Wednesday nights, 9 p.m. And also, we replay that show the next day on Thursdays at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You can also hear the podcast of this show on 20 different podcast platforms. that is from Amazon Music to YouTube Music, a bunch of stops in between. And finally, you can also listen to us on the Truth Be Told Radio Network. And that is, let's see, 9 p.m. on Fridays, where you get the audio only of the show because, of course, it's radio, right? But let's get to LA. And LA, I wanted to get your reaction to that clip. And welcome back to the program because, hey, as I said before we aired, I gotta butter you up. Don't want to really butter you up, but when I think of people I want to talk to about this subject, there's a list, short list of people, and you're at the top of that list. And I've been I've been talking to you on the air here for like 20 something years, covering this. And I'll be honest with you, this is a subject that I used to avoid, even though honestly, the guilty pleasure, I found it very interesting. I would in my own time look into it, came to my own conclusions, which are basically the same as yours. And here's the thing, now that Trump has had this data dump or whatever it is, you've had congressional hearings on the floor where they're talking about all this stuff in a very serious way. Nobody's laughing. Well, okay, let's talk about this. Let's have the discussion that we need to have. And what do you think of that classic clip of Ronald Reagan?
Interesting. I actually used that clip and the verbiage from that clip in the very first novel I'd ever, penned, Nephilim: The Truth Is Here, and I'll reference that clip. It's very interesting because it's almost like he wants to spill the beans, um, and what would happen with an alien threat, all this stuff, and then he kind of flips it. He kind of flips the script, but we already have it, and it's war. But was he kind of hinting at something? And a lot, we'll never know. He's no longer with us, and there's nothing in his memoirs. But some of these guys, some of the presidents had a clue, but I don't believe anybody had ever, let's say, got into Area 51. No president that I'm aware of got into Wright-Patterson. Now, with Eisenhower, that can be a whole different deal. There's scuttlebutt going around that there was a treaty signed, and this is all ufology. Those of us who have traveled in this know about it. But the Reagan clip is very telling because he talks about how quickly we would all coalesce if there was an outside threat. And of course, this leads to movies like Independence Day and Hollywood goes nuts over this stuff. And it's Earth versus the flying saucers. I mean, there has been just an unbelievable amount of film work, television shows dealing with all this, and it kind of begs the question why. And of course, with the Steven Spielberg film coming out, which I have done a scene by scene commentary on it, because I mean he's the master filmmaker of the 21st centuries, and I think he would get the vote, right? And it's very, very crafted, very crafted. But this is something happened on May 8th, which is absolutely unprecedented when Trump released the files. And for someone like me, it's a nothing burger in the sense that, hey, here's a craft moving from at point A to point B, zipping all around doing this stuff. Meanwhile, in our films, we have 10 of these, 10 films, Gil Zimmerman and I. And Gil used to work at Disney and DreamWorks for 30 years, right?
Right.
So you're looking at the Kumburgaz. Let me get it so you saw it. There you go. That's the Kumburgaz UFO. That was taken by the late Dr. Roger Lear, Lake Kumburgaz, Turkey. You can see the grays in the open cockpit. You can see the heat signature right there. There's the heat signature, and there are the grays right above it. So it's it's all in our film. You can lamarzulli.net or streaming.lamarzulli.net. You can stream these for $5 a piece to your homework, folks.
The interesting thing is that we had done a show years ago, and you had talked about what are the grays? Because that is a very common um, manifestation of what people see as quote aliens. And you had talked about the fact that these things could actually be avatars. In other words, just like in the movie Avatar, the human being gets their mind and everything transferred into the meat suit of one of the aliens, and they're walking around. And this would be working in kind of the same type of way, which I thought was like, wow, that's incredible.
Well, we need to define some terms before we jump into this. And, there was a bunch of pastors that allegedly got together and were briefed this thing. We were just saying it's all demonic. And Tim Alberino, Mondo Gonzalez, and myself addressed this a week ago on May 8th, because it's a very complex phenomena. And to simplify it and just lump it all as demonic is absurd. And here's the reason why. Fallen angels do not need an avatar. They have immortal bodies. Fallen angels have immortal bodies. The Watchers, which is a group of fallen angels, have immortal bodies. They do. Demons are the disembodied spirits of a Nephilim. So what are the Nephilim? The fallen angels having sex with human women, creating a hybrid being known as the Nephilim. Flood happens, the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim become earthbound. They become demons. Demons need a body to inhabit in order to manifest in our dimension. So the dragon, who, by the way, is a super scientist, thank you, Gary Schultz, for labeling it that, he's a super scientist, a demented one, but he's a super scientist. So he creates the avatars. He creates the meat suits. And how do we know this? Whitley Strieber talked about it. Al Matthews in our film number 4 on abductions. Karen Wilkinson, who was an abductee and was impregnated by them 3 times. Emil Jurek, they all talk about them. They all say the same thing. These are meat suits. That's what they are. They're avatars. So the demons inhabit these things and then can move about in our dimension. Fallen angels don't need an artificial body or an avatar or a meat suit. They can just in and come out. So that's a different.
Well, they're at a higher level than the demonic.
Absolutely. They're the ones that spawned the demons that roam the earth.
Now, you talked about the pastors meeting, which is what kind of got this whole round of it going. Because when I saw that, I was blown away. And one of the hosts on my radio network, Truth Be Told Radio Network, the Talk Network, that is Joseph Z. And I know you know him. You've been on his program.
Yeah.
And Joseph has been on this one. So, I just found it compelling, for lack of a better word, that there would be these people. I guess they were believers, high ranking in government. They were Christians, and they're calling all these select pastors together to say, "Hey guys, here's what's going on. Here's what may be coming down soon. Alert your people, alert Christians, alert, and make sure that people understand what's coming so that they can prepare for it." Is that a good assessment?
Yes and no. They're not part of the government in the sense that the government, there wasn't a group of people like Anna Paulina Luna or Chet or Burleson, Congressman Burleson. Apparently, they acted on their own. I have been in communication with one of these guys, and soon I'll be trying to interviewing him on my show. But the bottom line is these were 2 military guys, and I think they're kind of blown away because this whole thing took on a life of its own. Perry Stone announced this. And what does Perry Stone have to do with UFOs? With all respect, Pastor Stone, I mean, this is the first time you've ever talked about it to the best of my knowledge. I could be wrong here. So you get people like Alberino, Marzulli, Gonzalez, and others who have been immersed in this, in ufology for decades. One becoming Great Deception, which is a phrase that I coined way back in 1998. It's actually in the book, Nephilim. And I actually had one person who was threatening to sue me for using that phrase. And when I showed him the picture in the book, the page in the book where it's written 1998, oh, sorry. I mean, it's amazing how people get bent out of shape. So this whole thing just took on a life of its own, and they're portraying it as demonic, which we already talked about. It's far more complex than that. To say it's demonic means that there's no physicality to it, and there's physicality to this stuff. People are actually taken. The craft at Roswell was real. That's a piece of the metal. You can see it right there that we discovered in the debris field. And that debris field had spikes in it like this. So all these, this is the real deal. This came out of the debris field. Thank you, Chuck Zukowski, Frank Himmler. See, I always give credit to people because, not, I got to the debris field because Chuck Zukowski knew Frank Himmler, and Frank Himmler took us out to the debris field with Chuck, and they had metal detectors. No, it's like, give credit where credit is due. Hello, McFly. So the Army, as far as we know, someone in the military spiked the field with these spikes. So when you're with a metal detector, guess what? You get a false reading and you go up. But Frank Keebler knew where to go, and we pulled out 2 pieces of metal that day, and that's one of them. And this is kind of what it looks like. This is our film on Roswell, and that's the metal in the palm of my hand. Obviously, a little, yeah. I mean, that's so. And according to Chuck, we are the only film company to have ever taken out a piece of the metal from Roswell on film. No other film company's ever done that. We did it. So, and I say we, Gil Zimmerman, Jim Peterson, Chuck Sikowski, Frank Kimbler, and yours truly. I was like a kid in a candy store that day. So there's a physicality to this. Roswell, and there's a lot of, well-intentioned people out there. Roswell was not a weather balloon. I'm gonna share my screen. I want to show you this. Go ahead. And okay, great. So I want to show you this. Where is it? Select the tab. Trying to. All right, here we go. Share. So I'm going to show you this clip here. I believe that this was taken. It was smuggled out. That's what I think. I think it's the real thing. My business partner, Gil Zimmerman, and I, who created the films on Roswell, we watched this thing over and over and over again. So could it be a hoax? Yes. But for what purpose? No one's making any money off of it. And everybody's in a period uniform. It looked, Gil and I, like I said, we watched it, many, many times. We think it's real. I'm going to show you a clip, and I'll let it run, and then I'll run it back and narrate it. So here you go.
Okay.
Non-disclosure, we were making up, and they hold on. I mean, Colonel Hill's on his deathbed, and he said, we have 2 witnesses. We are gentlemen you just spoke of. So can you still hear me, Kevin? So we know that that's what happened. I'm trying to. So there's the body right there. Woman is fairly recent, within the last 5 years, who works. You can see it. It's very. And she told me there's the body again. There's a section. There's an area that when you get near it, it smells like formaldehyde, and nowhere goes it. It's some pot. This is part of the film, and then it doesn't die. Birds always formaldehyde. So, something's going on. Now they're bringing in the body. Notice that no one cares about the cameraman. They're getting in front of him to get a shot, a look-see at this alien. You can see it right there, at this alien that you can see. So we think, there it is, that this is the real deal. Everybody's in a period, not a costume, but period dress. So something is going on there. I think it's real. I think it was smuggled out. What's interesting is in the Steven Spielberg trailer, all right? We can go there if you want to, but it's yeah, in the Steven Spielberg trailer, they have a slate, right? Like this, a slate, all right? Except it's an old slate from 1947, and there's an Army guy holding the slate, and it says Roswell, NM, New Mexico, 509th BG Bombing Group, roll number 18, July 7th, which is when Jesse Marcel Sr. went out to the debris field. And let me show you this one clip, because this should blow you away. Let me get there, share screen.
Yeah, it's truly amazing stuff. And for me, as you were saying, the clips that I've seen released, I've been kind of like, I've seen a lot of stuff like orbs and stuff moving around, and it's not clear. Give me something clear. Show me Eisenhower meeting with the gray aliens from 1954. Release that, because from what I've heard, that was filmed, and that would be much harder to fake, being from 1954, than it would be today with AI and deep fakes and everything else. Pull that out and show us.
And that's what I think is going to happen. And that's what's so interesting about the Spielberg movie, because he's showing, what appears to be, and this is what begs the question. Did they show him the film from 1947, July 7th? Did they show him that? Did he be it, or is it, did they restore it? We don't know. This is Jesse Marcel Sr. Here we disclose. No, that's not. Hold on. This Colonel Hill's on. Give me a second. Here we go. It should be.
You have to follow the ranch around there.
This is
Just verbal directions that we know and found it.
that's Jesse Marcel.
Sr., along with another officer, reached the crash site, and what they discovered was that debris
That's our film right there. That's aerial footage of the day.
was so much of it. It was such a vast area. We found a piece of metal, about a foot and a half, 2 feet wide, and about 2-3 feet long. Felt like you had nothing in your hands. It wasn't any thicker than the oil out of cigarettes. The thing about that got me is like you couldn't even bend it. You couldn't bend at it, even though the sledgehammer would bounce off it.
Marcel was ordered to bring the debris to Fort Worth. Marcel was then met by General Ramey, who told him to keep silent about what he had found in the debris field.
They had a whole flock of microphones there. They wanted me to. They wanted to suck comments from me, but I wasn't that good. But they didn't do that.
Marcel was tried into a room, and on the floor in front of him were pieces of a conventional weather balloon. In essence, in our opinion, it was a setup, and Marcel was nothing more than a patsy.
All I could do is keep a mouth shut. And General Ramey is the one who told the newspapers what it was and to forget about it. It was nothing more than a upward observation balloon. Of course, we both knew different.
We both knew differently. And that's what's incredible, because this is our film on Roswell, Exoneration, right? We call Exoneration because, what happened to the Marcel family? I interviewed face-to-face Jesse Marcel Jr., that's senior right there, holding the piece of the weather balloon.
Yeah.
Complete concoction. And so, our film, we have 2 films on Roswell. I mean, it's how much stuff that, we went to the debris field. I've got a piece of the metal sitting on my desk here. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, let's go backwards to go forwards. Behind you on top of a coffee cup is the classic shaped UFO.
Sure.
Now, if you can hold that up for us, yeah, this is what you were talking about. Not all of this is just demonic energies or whatever. These are real craft. These are physical objects. And I don't know, I couldn't tell you how much of what we see right there in the skies that people see are merely projections, or actual craft, or if they are from another world, or if they're one of ours, where it's not technology, backward engineered it.
The problem with most of the churches, they have this truncated view of the supernatural. So in our Bibles, these things show up all the time. Go to 2 Kings chapter 6, and you tell me what the servant of Elisha the prophet is seeing. So they're in the tent, they're surrounded by the Syrian army, and Gehazi, Elisha's servant, is freaked out. We're all going to die, and I get that. So Elisha prays and says, Lord, open his eyes. So boots Gehazi out of a tent. His eyes are open. What does he see? The chariots of fire all around Elisha. What is a chariot of fire? Let's walk through that. Thousands of years ago, Gehazi, the ape who's living in that period of time, obviously. So Gehazi is trying to interpret what he's seeing. The apex vehicle of that time is a chariot. That's it. There are no airplanes, no cars, no blimps, nothing like that. This is thousands of years ago. They have a chariot. That's the apex mode of transportation. What illuminates them? Oil lamps, torchlight, and firelight. That's it. That's all they got. So he's looking at this thing and he's going, a chariot, it's a vehicle of fire. What is Ezekiel's wheel? And people argue that till the cows come home. And who's in it? Father God himself. I mean, how does that work? You see, the problem is the church has a truncated view of technology. What is the flaming sword that turns every which way? The cherubim in the garden, right, are guarding the east gate. So the cherubim are there, but then it says there's a flaming sword that turns every which way. What am I imitating? Imitating a lightsaber. It's a lightsaber.
So it's sonic.
Yeah, by 21st century terminology, if I saw that flaming sword, more than likely I would call it a lightsaber. But again, thousands of years ago, they're looking at the phenomena. There's no name for it. They have flame. They have a sword, flaming sword. Is it really too far of a stretch to call it a lightsaber? What about the two angels who go into Jerusalem in Ezekiel's time with slaughter weapons? What's that? What is a slaughter weapon? What is the New Jerusalem? What are the breastplates of the high priest which light up? What is the and the Thummim? We're looking at supernatural technology that we have no idea of how it works, but it's nuts and bolts. It is nuts. And guess what? The good guys have these things too. So the bad guys have them and the good guys have them. And
So let me stop you right there. Who are the good guys? Who are the bad guys?
fallen angels are the bad guys. The good angels are the good guys. And we know this. What happens when Michael and his angels fight with the devil and his angels? See, no one ever asked the question, well, how do they fight? How is it that and this is future, how is it that Michael overcomes the bad guys and they fall to earth because they've been kicked out of the second heaven? How do they fight? These are immortal beings. They cannot be destroyed, but they can be wounded. So how are they wounded? Do they fight with lightsabers? We don't know. But they can't, in my opinion, this is conjecture, but they can't be wounded. They cannot be killed, but they can be wounded. Nephilim, I believe, and this is why Goliath has his head chopped off by David, because David knew, somehow he knew, it's not in the text, it's conjecture, but why is he decapitating him? Because then there's no regeneration. If he only wounded him, then the Nephilim could regenerate himself. So you have to decapitate them. Now that's conjecture, but it's based on, David's doing this for a reason. He's doing it for a reason because no regeneration. So angels, which are immortal beings, cannot be not be destroyed. But Michael kicks the bad guy out. How does he do that? They're fighting. They are absolutely fighting. We're not told, but can they be wounded? In my opinion, sure. Here's another example. When Daniel prays, an angel appears to him. Takes him 21 days to get there, right?
Yeah, I was just thinking of
He goes, well, I would have come here sooner, except I was restrained by the Prince of Persia. 21 days? So he can't get in. So annoying when the phone rings. Sorry. So he can't access it. He can't get in. He's got to get the archangel Michael. Michael comes with who knows how many angels, and they defeat the Prince of Persia. And then the angel can get through that gateway, that portal, which begs the question, why can't the good angel that appears to Daniel, why can't he just fly around?
Yeah.
Persia? He can't, because this is conjecture, but he can't, it's seemingly he can't do that. Why? Because that gateway from one dimension to another is guarded by the Prince of Persia, and who knows how many guys he has with him. We're not told. It's one of the chapters I wish that we had, lots and lots of detail. All we know is Mike fights with the Prince of Persia. Prince of Persia backs off. The angel gets in. That's technology. How are they fighting? Again, they're not up there thumb wrestling. It's not what they're doing. They hate each other. This is why the war in heaven happens. And Michael fights with the devil and his angels. They hate each other. The vitriol between the two sides is reaching even now a fever pitch. And who knows what's going on?
So let me ask you this, and I'm going to quote a great line, probably one of the best lines Captain Kirk ever has in any of the movies, TV shows, whatever. These craft that you held up before that everybody knows they're so iconic. Look at a flying saucer. The demonic is using them. Fallen angels are using them. You're saying angels are using them, but then to quote Star Trek, what does God need with a starship? Why would they need to use something physical to transport themselves?
Well, and I get asked that question a lot. And again, they're moving from one dimension to another. Is that a mode of transportation? And we're not told. We're not, nobody's got the answer to it. All we know is good guys have them and the bad guys have them. So they are used as some sort of a transportation device. It's like I said, the no technology. Well, what's the flaming sword? What's the breastplate and the human and the Thummim of the high priest? What's the Ark of the Covenant, for crying out loud? What does that do? There's technology all through the Bible. How does the New Jerusalem descend from the heavenly realm? How does that work? 1,500 miles wide, and
Yeah.
and the length and the height. I think it's a pyramid, but that's my own thoughts. How does that thing come down onto the Earth? We're not told. Think about the structural engineering for that. How do you create something that has structural integrity to span a 1,500-mile gap? How does that work? So what kind of materials are they using? Is it the same type of material that Jesse Marcel just told us, right?
Yeah.
It's so light and yet so durable and strong that he picked up, that he handled. And you got to remember this: um, the debris field was a skip site. So the UFO came in, it's hit the ground and skipped, and then flew off. I'm going to show you again smuggled footage that came out. We don't know where it's from, no idea. I'm going to show you this. I think you'll find it interesting. Hold on. So this is again this is a presentation that I do.
There you go. I'll get it started for you.
Yeah. So let me find it first of all. Give me a second. Always sorry.
Problem.
Yeah, this is it right here. Here we go. Watch this thing come in. This is smuggled. This is the real deal. Watch this. There's no tail,
Yeah.
no rotor wash. Now watch when it hits again. That's a disc.
Mm-hmm.
Watch.
Mm.
It's like, and that's why they didn't get it all, Kevin. They didn't get all the metal. They didn't.
Yeah.
Because when this thing hit and skipped, it just blew off shards of metal like this that were like a bullet out of a gun.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see the close up. There are no wings. There is no rotor wash. There's nothing going on. We don't know what we're looking at, but it's glowing because the propulsion system is bending space and time. That's why the photographs are all blurry. So, I mean, this is all in the presentations that I do. And I think that was smuggled out, just like I think the Roswell film was smuggled out. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see what Spielberg does with this, because it's already in there. I mean, it's in the trailer. He's showing it, and then it cuts to a black and white clip, and we don't know what we're looking at. It's like a tent. There's people on ladders. They're doing something. It looks like they're hiding something. We don't know. So it goes back to 47, and that's what's so interesting about Steven Spielberg's, um, film where he goes like this, and the guy holding it up, and it says July 7th, which is the day that Jesse Marcel Sr. went out and got the got pieces of the craft. Then July 8th is what we get here. RAF captures flying saucer on ranch in Roswell. That's the 8th. But the 9th, General Ramey empties the saucer. Excitement not justified, says Ramey. It's a weather balloon. And this is why in the film, there's a character that says, the decades of cover up with Roswell, it's got to end. And he's real emotional about it and all this other stuff. So, and it does. I mean, remember, people were called kooks. See the tinfoil hat behind me?
Yep.
You're a tinfoil guy. No such thing as UFOs, LA. Look, I've seen 4, and I don't go looking for them, Kevin. I've seen 4 UFOs, and one of them was the classic disc, but it was way back and way high like this, very similar, just like this, way up in the sky, and the sunlight was glinting off of it. And when the thing left, it went like this. It went straight up. In a blink of an eye, it was gone. So, they exist. They're here. It's just like, how do angels pop in and pop out? How does the angel that appears in Peter's jail cell, how does he come through the wall? How does the prison door open? How do the chains that were shackling Peter to the wall unshackle? They just pop open. How does the prison door open? Why are the guards shut off? Because they're all shut off. They're all asleep. How does the prison door open and then the angel just disappears? The angel, the good guy, is manipulating space, time, matter, and energy in ways that I don't understand. In ways that
Let me do this, because you're talking about what you saw. I have a well-known clip of Jimmy Carter on Larry King from years ago. talking about something that he saw, and I'd like to get your reaction. Here,
Tell me about the time you once saw a UFO.
Well, I was a district governor of 56 Lions Clubs in Southwest Georgia, and I had to visit all the Lions Clubs and make a speech. And I was outside a school lunchroom one night right before sundown. It was getting dark, and we were getting ready to eat supper. And I and about 25 men were standing around, and all of a sudden in the western sky, we saw a strange light coming to us, a round light, and got closer and closer, and right above the pine trees, it stopped. And then it began to change colors from blue to red to white. And then it stayed there for a while. We were all aghast. We didn't know what it was. And then it just disappeared into the west. That was the end of it. So it was a genuine UFO in that it was an unidentified flying object, but I have never thought and still don't think that it's possible for, creatures from Mars to come here and visit us and go back home.
yeah, pretty interesting. And what's your reaction to him? Because it seems very genuine.
Oh, he had an experience. I mean, and it's classic. It's Close Encounters of the First Kind. The object is there. He sees it. It's above the trees like this, and it's changing color. Which is what they do. We cover all this in our film. We have witnesses saying exactly the same story. The thing,
Yeah.
and we show the film. It's morphing. It's going from red to white to green to white to red. I mean, we actually show footage of it in our film. So yeah, I mean, it's Close Encounters of the First Kind. Close Encounters of the Second Kind is more like this, where you see the crafts. It's close. Close Encounters of the Third Kind, you see the bodies, you see the entities, which is what this is. This is CE3. You actually see, the entities right there.
Yeah.
There they are. Those are the grays. And Close Encounters of the Fourth is when you're in contact with them. And Close Encounters of the Fifth is when you're calling them down and they pop in. That's Stephen Greer, and I would caution against joining. Yeah, we're not. You don't want to be doing that. You don't.
You talk about the rungs of disclosure and what, and this is, I think, some of these rungs that you're covering right now, and I think we're up to so many. That question, I want to couple it with this, which is why now? Why is all this stuff coming out right now?
Well, why the timetable? Because we have a president, first of all, that wants to release it. People have been asking for it. Congressmen and congresswomen know about it, and Anna Paulina Luna is, in some ways, the tip of the spear. Tim Burchett is. Runs of Disclosure, the book. By the way, it's like it was in all of Amazon books. It was like under 5,000 a couple of days ago. So it's really selling like hotcakes, and it's an interactive website. So when you go to rungsofdisclosure.com, it'll take you because the book only goes up to rung number 18. We are now up to rung number 29, and you'll see videos. So when you get the book, you read the book, it brings you up to speed. Then you go to rungsofdisclosure.com, and you can see rung number 19 through rung number 29. So, we're up another, 10, 11 rungs since the book was published. But the book is selling really well, and it's a great way to get up to speed if you don't know too much about the phenomena. The very first rung on the ladder of disclosure is Commander David Fravor, 2017. So what we've seen, Kevin, is a steady revealing of the so-called UAP UFO phenomena. And Tucker Carlson was sort of a gateway to that, at least in the beginning. So the first rung is Commander David Fravor, who says that the tic-tac shaped object he saw was something not from this earth. What do you do with that? What do you do with that information? The second rung was Luis Elizondo coming on, stating that we have metal that was retrieved from a debris field, and it's got isotopic ratios, right? That might not be of this world. Then Christopher Mellon comes on. That's the third rung, who says we've tested the metal and it's got isotopic ratios not found on this planet. And then it just goes up and up and up and up and up. It talks about cattle mutilations, crop circles, all this other stuff. Well, rung number 29 was May 8th, the disclosure where the government finally came out and said it's real. See, but then you've got Arrow, which and this is not my words, this is the words I believe of Nancy Mace, calling the director of Arrow an out and out liar, saying that we have no evidence of it, UAPs or any of this stuff. And what blows the whole Arrow thing out of water, see, there's almost like two factions because they released the documents. So we know that the phenomenon is real, burgeoning, not going away. So Arrow, they had a guy up there say, we have no evidence of any extraterrestrials, blah, blah, blah. How can he say that? Because he's never seen any evidence. Meanwhile, Anna Paulina Luna and Representative Tim Burchett has said that this next batch that they're going to release is a holy crap moment. His words, not mine. So what they're going to show might be bodies. I have no idea. Could be the film from Roswell. No idea. But we're being set up for something. And again, you and I talk about this before we came on the air. So we're seeing that the phenomenon is real, but we're not seeing mile-wide ships, are we?
No.
Mile-wide ships. We're not. It's disclosure is on their terms, not on ours. On their terms. And who are they? Fallen angels.
Yeah.
Fallen angels. And this, you see, the thing is, how do you get to a one-world government, one-world religious system? How does that even happen? It happens when they show up and they will say that we were the ancient gods that you worshiped. Oh, wait, isn't that what the ancient aliens show has been promulgating for 7 years forever, right? And isn't that what we hear with the Anunnaki, that they were gods that create? And this is the gods are back. We created all life on this planet. We genetically manipulated early man. We started the world's religions. We started the world's civilizations. Now it's a critical juncture in human history. We, your progenitors, your gods, are back to usher mankind into a golden age. I'm going to read you something.
So then they're going to come and announce humanity 2.0, and and then everybody's going to fall for it. And then we see some of the now. Let me stop there and ask you: is this something that you think will happen pre-rapture or after the rapture has happened?
It's a good question. So there's a saying I came up with: we go up, they come down. We go up, they show up. What I'm about to read is from a pamphlet. This is a track. Thank you, Brad Myers, for helping with this. Brad Myers was the nexus. It was his idea. But see, I always give credit. See that? Always. That should be the first rule. Give credit where credit is due. Brad Myers came up with this idea. I didn't, but I was involved in it, and that's why this is What is the Truth? That's my idea. But Brad came up with the idea. Let's get a track out. Great idea, Brad. What should we call it? And we use this. This is the 10th film in our UFO 10 DVD box set. This is channeled information, what I am about to read to you. In other words, a person goes into a trance and allows an entity to speak through them, through the technique of automatic writing. It can be voice to skull, like the medium Jane Roberts is a perfect example. So this is what this entity is saying. We are here. We are the Pleiadians. Humanity is learning a great lesson at this time. The lesson is, of course, to realize your godhood. Didn't we hear that all the way back in the garden, right? The moment you take of this fruit, you'll be like God, knowing from good. Nothing has changed over thousands of years, right? Now listen to this. If human beings did not change, if they did not make the shift in values and realize that without Earth they could not be here, then Earth and its love for its own initiation is reaching for a higher frequency, will bring about a cleansing that will balance it once again. What is this cleansing? Drum roll, please. There is a potential for many people to leave the planet in an afternoon. Let me read that line again.
Yeah.
There is a potential for many people to leave the planet in an afternoon. The people who leave the planet during Earth changes do not fit here any longer, and they are stopping the harmony of the Earth. I'm not making this up. That was done years ago, and they have already explained who are they, fallen angels, because this entity coming through her is not a good guy, in my opinion. And they've already explained the way the rapture of the church. They've already right? They've already explained the way the rapture of the church. I'm not making this up.
Here's something interesting. The late Doc Marquis, who we both knew, and I had on this show, I don't know how many times, 30, 40 times. He he grew up in a family of witches and was very connected into that whole end until he became a Christian. And what he talked about is you go back, I don't know how many years ago, it was 100, 150 years ago, they knew that there was a rapture coming, but they didn't know how to deal with it. And they said that this was the explanation that they were going to use as disclosure, and that all the bad people are gone. They're going to get re-educated or whatever. And you're the wonderful people, and you're going to get humanity 2.0, and that's probably the mark of the beast.
Yeah, it is, and this is how you get to a one-world religious system, to a one-world government. This is I have a whole presentation on this. This is how we get there, and I'm not making this up. I mean, I've been banging this drum, like you said, for like 30 years, warning about becoming the phrase, my phrase, I'm giving myself credit. Way to go, LA. But the coming great deception, that came from me. Came from the Holy Spirit. It's based on the first Thessalonians, because they did not believe the truth, God sends them strong delusion. So that's the jumping off point, is the biblical narrative. But then I came up with the term the coming great deception, because it's going to change everything. Here's the kicker, Kevin. So people out there are going, well, you know what? Once saved, always saved, and how's that going to work? And blah, blah, blah. Well, then you tell me how to reconcile this. This is Paul writing in 1 Timothy chapter 4. Oh, and guess who pointed me to that? My good friend Mondo Gonzalez. Once again, LA giving credit where credit is due. So Mondo led me to this scripture. This is what it says. The Spirit expressly states. So underline the word expressly. He's using his words very, very carefully. The Spirit, the Holy Spirit, third person of a Trinity. The Spirit expressly states that in the latter days, some will depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and the doctrine of demons. Kevin, this is where we are. How do we know we're in the last days? Well, if you're an amillennialist, we're not in the last days, because they don't believe in the prophecies that are in the Bible. They don't believe in the literal interpretation of many of the prophecies we see. My prophecy that I just love is Amos 9, 14, and 15, and the Holy Spirit took me there. And it says this is ancient prophecy, thousands of years ago. I will bring back the captivity of my people Israel. Check. They will build the waste cities and inhabit them. Check. They will also plant vineyards. They will plant vineyards and drink the wine from them. Check. They will also plant gardens and eat the fruit from them. Check. I will plant them in their land, and never again will they be plucked up out of the land I have given them. So square that, pal. How does that work if it's just allegorical? Because it's not. Oh, that already happened when the Babylonian captivity. No, because Israel was plucked up AD 70. And then in AD 130, the Bar Kokhba revolt, and that was it. No Jew could go into Jerusalem. That was it. Till Constantine's mother came in. And that's like 300 years later, the 4th century. So they're back. May 14th, 1948. That's how we know that Amos 9, 14, and 15 has been fulfilled. Israel is a prophetic time clock. I don't give a pass to Israel. All nations on earth are corrupt. Israel is corrupt in some manner. I mean, just look at all the fraud that we had here in Minneapolis.
Yeah.
You can't even make this up, right? So, corruption, oh, LA, please. Every nation, people are corrupt. So I don't give a pass to any of this stuff. All I'm saying is that Israel is the prophetic time clock. Israel is God's chosen people. So that scripture the Spirit expressly states, in the latter days, we're here, stumbled apart from the faith, which begs the question, how do they depart from the faith? Because they give heed to seducing spirits and the doctrine of demons. What I read to you in our little tract that we give out for free is the doctrine of demons, seducing spirits. And it's already here. If you don't believe me, I don't know your demographics, but if you're 65, 70, I'm 75, okay? Talk to your grandkids. What do they believe? Oh, yeah, they believe in the Anunnaki. Oh, they've been watching Ancient Aliens. Oh, they've been watching Katy Perry, or whoever. It's everywhere. And the young people have been indoctrinated into it. So they already believe. In fact, I think it was a Pew Research fairly recently that came out and said more people believe in aliens than they do in the Bible.
Hmm.
Let that sink in.
Hey, let me do this. I got one more video clip, and it's from a few years ago, I think. It's Barack Obama.
No, this is recent. This is recent.
It is fairly recent, right?
Barack Obama talks UFOs with talk show host James Corden.
There's footage and records of objects in the skies that we don't know exactly what they are. We can't explain how they moved, their trajectory. And so, I think that people still take seriously trying to investigate and figure out what that is.
Mr. Obama says UFOs were actually one of the first things he asked about after taking office, but he did not say whether he thought UFOs were alien in origin. Congress will be briefed next month on recent sightings of unidentified aerial phenomena in U.S. airspace.
If I was president, that's the first thing I'd say. Can I go to Area 51? Wherever you supposedly have them.
Yes. I want to see the classified documents.
Yeah, that would be interesting. But there's also, I thought there was a video of this, LA, of Bill Clinton. I remember seeing an interview or something, and he said that when he first took office, like Obama, he wanted the answer to two questions. Number one, who murdered JFK, and what about the UFOs?
Yeah, and that's no and no. You're not going to get to that because there is a government within our government. I mean, Kristen Gillibrand comes up on the film Age of Disclosure and basically says it's not okay to have secret parts of the government that are not accountable to anyone. And that's exactly what we live in. And that's what, Obama is trying to steal Trump's thunder, and he's never been saying that, but he said it anyway. And recently, he said aliens are real, and Trump basically gave him a little slap on the hand. Shouldn't be saying that. It's not your business to be saying that. You're no longer president, I am. So Trump kind of smacked him down, and then Trump released the files. Now, there's another dump that's supposed to come out. I will be watching that like white on rice. And cheering on it the day of. But what will we see? Again, the Kumbergaz UFO footage that we have in our Watchers film and also in right here in the UFO film. It's I forget which film it's actually in. It's either 2 or 3, but it's here. And it's the best UFO footage I've seen. And it went on for hours. I mean, hours. And Richard Shaw, my former business partner who passed away a few years ago, which is why he's my former business partner. But Gil Silverman and I, my new business partner, and I, we looked at all this. But Richard looked at the Kumbergaz film frame by frame. And he watched the whole thing. And we actually have a comment on it in Watchers 10. So we were the people, patting myself on the back again here, but we were the people that broke the story on the Kumbergaz UFO. Nobody had that. Dr. Roger Lear, who was in all of our Watchers film, all 10, and we dedicated number 11 to him, which is Anatomy of a Hoax and the Best of Watchers. We dedicated it to him, to the late Dr. Roger Lear, because he was in all of our films. And Roger gave us that film to use, the Kumbergaz UFO film. We broke the story on that, just like Richard Shaw and I broke the story with Robert Salas. Salas is the commander of the Malmstrom Intercontinental Ballistic Missile Air Force Base up in Montana. We broke the story on because we allowed him to look at the rough cut of his interview and give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down or tell us what he wanted to change. He looked at it and said, "You did a great job, guys. Go for it." But we allowed him the opportunity to say, "Well, can you change this? Can you move this here?" And he just gave us 2 thumbs up, and that was the end of it. We broke a story on that. And what happened was, for those of you who don't know, there was a 40-foot UFO hovering over the gate of the Malmstrom Air Force Base, and it turned off all 10 intercontinental ballistic missiles, those are nukes, without doing anything. So it was a very intense, I got to tell you this, when I interviewed him, we stopped the cameras at one point because he started crying. It was a very, very emotional interview with him. Very emotional interview with him. So go ahead. Let's Kevin. Then I got.
Yeah, we got about 5 minutes.
Okay, great.
you talk about, you have that incident, plus we have the one going back, I don't know if it's the late 1940s, the 1950s, the Battle of LA. You have you have these objects that are able to turn off, these nuclear launchers, and you're talking about national security. So, I mean, if you look at it in a lot of different ways, this is some pretty serious stuff. What's your reaction to that? But also, more importantly, what is the one thing that could be revealed at this point in LA's mind that is the big game changer where it's going to make people just go, oh, wow.
If they come clean on Roswell, and we have it in our films, I have interviewed people, eyewitnesses who saw the bodies. I mean, I'm not making this up, Kevin.
Yeah.
How much information do we have to, you know, research and show before people realize that, something happened in 1947, and Spielberg alludes to it in the film. It's in the trailer. So are they he's gonna spill the beans there? We don't know. The deal is well, I just showed you the film that we believe was leaked, where they're bringing in the body, and
Yeah.
Bill Zimmerman and I look at this thing, we think it's real. Could it be staged? Well, yeah, but then you gotta get the lights and the camera guy and all these people, and you gotta create a fake alien that are bringing this thing in. I mean, how much money are we talking about here? In period uniforms, could you do it? Well, of course you could do it, but where's that money coming from, and what's the point? Nobody's, "Oh, it's a great hoax, isn't it, OA?" I mean, there are hoaxes out there, but I think this is real. I think the next thing they're gonna show us, this next dump, we might see stuff from Roswell. That's my guess. We might see stuff from Roswell or from another, retrieval, because Roswell's not the only one, trust me.
What's the one thing that you would love to see released above anything else?
The Roswell footage.
Is there anything in particular about the footage? What would you want to see?
Because that's ground zero. I want to see the craft embedded into the hillside, like allegedly it was. Bodies that were being taken out. I mean, in our film, once again, shameless plug, but it's in here. We interviewed Jim and Carolyn Rankin, who were caretakers for Colonel Hill. Colonel Hill was OSS, which is a forerunner of the CIA, later became the CIA, and he was an interrogator. So when the Roswell happened, he was flown into Roswell to try to make contact with this gray alien being, was unable to do so. And it had 6 fingers, according to him, was in a one-piece jumpsuit type deal, large black eyes. And this is, Roswell. This is 47. It's a deathbed confession, Kevin. He died a month after he spilled the beans to Jim and Carolyn. And we've got other confessions like this from people. I mean, how many people do we need, to come on the record to say that Roswell was not a weather balloon before that story gets placed where it should be, in the circular file underneath my desk? And if they show the Roswell footage, and I think this is what they might be doing, because Spielberg alludes to it, there's this whole thing where they're showing that film. Is that a reenactment or is that the real deal? We don't know. We don't know yet. But I mean, he's focusing on that thing like a laser beam. So I think that, and isn't it interesting? We're in May, right?
Yeah.
We don't know when the second dump's gonna come out, but Spielberg's movie's gonna come out, what, the 12th of June? Something like that? I'll be in the theater munching popcorn and
Yeah.
I'll be over there.
Yeah, and here's the deal. I mean, Spielberg has had a history of producing some pretty interesting type of films in this genre. You have E.T., the extraterrestrial. I think you had Super 8. It's another one. You have there's a bunch of them, and kind of leading up to.
Well, he even stated on the record, recently, I'm pretty sure this is a direct quote, allegedly it's a direct quote, that this film, Disclosure Day, is more truth than fiction.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Quasi documentary sorts, or
Well, that's the deal. And think of the millions and millions and millions of people who will be indoctrinated into this whole mindset. And he uses Mother Superior, uses a nun to say this. And this is repeated endlessly now. And Sean Hannity repeated, I have trouble speaking here. Sean Hannity repeated this exact phrase. It's in Spielberg's film, it's in the Super Mario film. Surely, if God created a universe that's so vast, why would he make us the only species? And my retort to that is, yeah, well, in the book of Revelation, a third of the stars go dark. Who flipped the switch for that? Who
flipped the switch?
Father God rolls up the heavens like a scroll? How is it possible? What if we're in some sort of a holodeck? We don't know where we are. We don't know what this is. But I'm not buying a life on other planet thing. Not for a minute.
Interesting. Hey, we got to wrap up, but tell people a little bit about how they can get more information about you, your website, etc.
LAMarzulli.com, LAMarzulli.com, streaming.LAMarzulli.net, streaming.LAMarzulli.net. There are 33 films, 15 books. We've had an hour. Do your homework, folks. Rungs of Disclosure on Amazon. It's I think it was like number 6 this morning, something like that, in Christian bestsellers. So it's do your homework and then go to rungsofdisclosure.com. That's all I can tell you.
Fascinating stuff. Ellie, thank you so much for being here. We'll get in touch again. We'll get you back on, and when the next dump comes out,
you email.
You got it. Hey, thank you very much. God bless you, and we'll be talking to you again real soon, okay?
And take care.
Death comes for us all. Today, it came for Bob.
This is your life, Mr. Frisbee. You can call me Mr. O. Time does not exist here. We will go through every person you have ever wronged and everyone who has wronged you.
I can't forgive him! Bob, come down here.
Aunt Mary?
You cannot enter heaven with hatred in your heart.
Take my hand, Bob. We'll go together. Are you escaping, Bob?
Stay back! Bob Frisbee must face every sin of his past. Will he find forgiveness in his heart or surrender to the darkness? Find out in the brand new novel by L.A. Marzulli, The Waiting Room.